Welcome back, friends, to another reading for the collective. My name's Ross, and I pop on here every Tuesday and Thursday to offer these readings. And I like to think of my readings not so much as fortune telling, but as storytelling. So if you find yourself this season or even this day, I invite you to hold that sensation, feeling, thought, whatever it is for you, and in a moment, we'll take 3 deep breaths into that space, into that thought, and we will exhale. And when we exhale, we can give a little sound, a sigh, a hum, a moan, a groan, whatever feels appropriate and safe for you. And we can imagine that sensation traveling out of your body through the magic of the internet and indie, because I like to think of these not as I'm not your dad. I don't presume to know anything more than what my experience has shown me, and my experience is going to be very, very, very different from yours. So that's how I operate here. And if you found yourself here, then I'm glad that you're here, and I get a sense that you operate in a similar non dogmatic way. So finding that sensation or that thought and breathing in and out. 2 more times, breathing in and out. And last time, breathing in and out. Before we even begin, I want to say that the ancestors are here. I've been working with my grandmothers a lot these last couple weeks, and I've been getting confirmation that it's not just me, it's something that's collectively happening. So your ancestors are here with you, and we'll see if they're with us in this reading. I mean, they're with me, so they must be. Strawberries might be relevant. Also, I saw 2 little bunnies playing on the road outside this morning. It was very cute. So, bunnies might be significant or are confirmation. I like to think of bunnies as signs of abundance. Sure, there's the whole angle to take about plentifulness in sexual relations, and that might be relevant as well. But I like to think of it more as the abundance of all things. And if that's sex for you, chapeau, amazing. But if that's other things, then that's available as well. And with the two there, maybe it is more relational abundance. And it doesn't have to be sexual, it can just be like-minded folks coming together for a similar goal. So that's what's up before we even get into the cards. So, what's the collective need to know today? God, spirit, etc. Whatever the God of your understanding is, it creates from love. And so you are a creation of love. It's not to say that, ooh, we're going to take all of those. I think we might. I think this might be one of our, is this 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this is one of those week ahead spreads. So I'm trying to see how I can do this in a way that preserves the surprise. I guess we can just go like this, right? So like I said, I post these on Tuesday and Thursday, and I've done these kinds of week ahead energy readings in the other readings before. and they're a great way of looking at what's to come or what's upcoming. It might not necessarily be 7 days, it could be 7 hours, it could be 7 months, it could be 7 years, it could be 7 seconds. Thoughts can change quickly, and those thoughts, when they're changed, they can change how we are interacting with the world. I mean, think about how quickly the thought of Santa Claus being real or not changed your perception of the holidays. 555, as I'm saying this, change is imminent. So we start with the Eight of Swords. And I feel like this is almost like a precursor to where you are right now. This is a character who may have, in the past, and in the very recent past, we might even say, allowed themselves to feel bound and tethered and constricted by not just their thoughts, the swords representing thoughts, the element of air, but also what people have told them they are. But if we look at this character closer, we can see that the swords do not surround her. And though she is bound around the arms and waist and around the eyes, her feet are free. So she's not as bound as she thinks she is. You're not as bound and tethered as you think you are. You're not as restrained or restricted as you may have misbelieved you were. Yeah, and it looks like even that bandage around the eyes, like if she were to just shrug her eyebrows just a few times, it would fall down over her nose, and then she could see, oh wait, these swords aren't around me. These conceived ideas about me never really contained me. And it's interesting that I was called to share at the beginning as I was shuffling that you are a child of your creator, a child of love, whatever it is. That's not to say that the way that you were brought into this world or the ambassadors, we'll say, of that love were always as unconditionally loving as they could be. And that's sad. And I hold you with great tenderness if that is your case. But on the other hand, on a much more mm, emotionally neutral hand, people are just people. Some people shouldn't be. That's a judgment. Some people might have been better suited reconsidering their choice for parenthood. But again, that's a judgment in and of itself. All that to say is, even if you're not to a place where you're able to look on the folks who have put all of these swords around you with such emotional neutrality and, dare I even say, forgiveness, uh, you're stepping out of those ideas and those labels. There's a there's a bird on the power line outside squawking and, oh, it just pooped, and like flapping its wings. And I get the sense like this is you, like you're ready to take those bandages off. You're ready to step beyond what has been uh, preordained or laid out for you. So this is a great way to start the week. You are making moves. Yeah. Knight of Cups, you're out of your head and into your body. You're out of the thoughts and into the feelings, into the emotions, and there is a steadiness with it. The knight is a card of action. I like to think of them as the disciple of the suit, the one that is going to do whatever it takes to bring the fullness of that suit into reality. In this case, it's the cups. The cups represent water and emotions, the feelings that we have. And this is a person, especially going from the Seven of Swords to this card, this is a person, you're a person who has, I hate to say mastered their emotions, but isn't allowing their emotions to unseat them or feel like they are contained by them in some kind of way. This is a person who is To borrow a phrase from A Course in Miracles, this is a person who is walking with God in perfect holiness, or riding their horse with the steadiness of their emotions. Under control, maybe just under awareness is a better way of saying that. So, hmm, that is good. And in certain readings, we could look at this stream as kind of a restriction of those emotions. But so far, and we'll see, I've already forgot. I remember some of the cards, but I forget where they come up in this week. This is hmm, this is the deliberateness of those emotions, of knowing when it's time to lead with those emotions, and knowing when it's time to uh, enact some logical measures. I think this is a great card, one of my faves. Really unique Terrence Malick movie, or Malick. I don't know. Knight of Cups, Christian Bale. Look it up. So that's what's coming up, and it makes sense that we're going from the overthinking to the awareness of the emotions, and seeing those emotions not as a burden, not as something that's too much, which you might have been told by your unconscious caregivers, but something that suits you, that can almost, there's the wings, that can give you the wings to fly. But there's a steadiness here. It's not the overwhelming of emotions. But confirmation burp, excuse me. Yeah, Hierophant reversed, or Hierophant reversed. And this kind of goes back to the um, Eight of Swords, as far as stepping out of those ideas of what spirituality is, or even, like, there's nothing inherently spiritual about these cards so far. Stepping outside of what your emotions mean. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a man. So there's this whole mm, lineage, this whole story of men bottling up their emotions, or not expressing their emotions because that's seen as weak, or, you know, being a pussy, or anything you want to say that. Um, so it could just be like that kind of thing, like turning that on its head and seeing that no, there's nothing inherently masculine or feminine about feeling your emotions. True, the feminine energy is that flowing of emotions and intuition and things like that. But we have access to both of those energies inside of us, no matter how we're presenting masculine, feminine, or something on the spectrum in between. And it's also the idea, and it'll be interesting to see the other cards here. The other thing that was coming through is this idea of softness, of softening into these thoughts that you've been having, especially if they have been ingrained in you since you were a child. Sometimes it's like the metaphor of sometimes you need a scalpel to cut something, and sometimes you need an axe if you were trying to cut down a tree. I would presume eventually you could do it with a scalpel, but I would not have the patience to do that. If you had the patience for that, chapeau to you. You need the correct tool for the job. And I have noticed in my own recent healings the invitation to soften into those resistances, especially when they are those heavy thoughts that tend to bog us down, softening into those, offering them compassion and love, and just the idea of softness, of nurturance, of gentleness, all of these things that aren't inherently masculine, but at least in the sense that society is putting out. But I believe there is nothing more masculine than being soft and gentle. And I was speaking with a friend about this a few weeks ago, and the whole idea came up about how no one doesn't like softness. No one doesn't like gentle comforts. And when we're able to offer that to ourselves, then the healing happens. So getting out of your head, getting in touch with your emotions, and not letting yourself be ruled by what either of those mean. Like I said, sometimes you can't feel your way into a solution for a math problem, right? You can't 1555 as I'm saying that. You can't let your emotions tell you how to solve for X, right? So this is understanding that it's not a necessarily a binary thing. It's not yes, I'm only going to be in my head or yes, I'm only going to be in my emotions, that there is a time and a place and we walk with both in perfect wholeness. And that's where we are. That's where you find yourself on the third day that you find this. Six of Pentacles. Where are we? Six of Pentacles, but it came up reversed. And this is one of the more challenging cards just because of the books that I have read state that this is a character in the guise of a merchant. And it's this idea of giving out only what the beggars can handle. Some folks suggest that this character is justice in disguise, what with the perfectly balanced scales over here. With it in reverse, though, what's coming through is just this kind of reevaluation, like we saw with the Hierophant in reverse, the reevaluation of what it means to ask for something, what it means to give what you have, what it means to receive what you ask for, and being open to receiving more than what you ask for. You're not a bother for asking for things. You're not a bother for needing attention. It might be bothersome if you're trying to get attention at Trader Joe's and they're not opened yet, so you break in because you just need your salt-free peanut butter. That is, from a certain point of view, that could be a bother, especially if you chose to do that naked. Like, okay, choices were made. But asking a friend for time together, asking someone who has resources to share some of those resources. The worst they can do is say no. And, oh, I just saw something somewhere. That's vague. Um, instead of seeing a person's behavior as something about you, see it as information that they are giving you about them. So if someone has I was writing about fig Newtons this morning. I'm very hungry. I have not eaten yet. If someone has a mountain of fig Newtons, an entire room filled with fig Newtons, they've got their fig Newton room upstairs next to the bathroom. And you ask, hey, can I have some fig Newtons? And they say, no, I need all of those. Okay. They're telling you something about themselves. They're telling you something about themselves. If they're not going to be giving of their fig Newtons, they're probably going to be stingy about other things. So just, with as much forgiveness and compassion as you can, remove yourself from that situation and that person. So I think that's what kind of this is. It's the idea of, and it's very interesting. We had that reversed tower in the last reading. So if things are topsy turvy, and good on you. You're not getting bogged down by that or what it might mean. You're just looking at things and considering, no, I can define what spirituality means to me. I can define what it means to be a spiritual person having a human experience. I can define what it means to ask for things and make requests to have my needs met. 2020, as I'm saying that. Hmm, the devil. And as we are re examining things, what better card to come up than the devil? And this isn't, despite the image, this isn't the cloven hoofed, pitchforked, red dude going around uh, as an enemy of God. No, the devil card represents decadence and where we have chained ourselves to those decadences. Because if you look closely here, you will see that these naked characters chained to the cube that the devil is perched on, those chains are not tight around their necks. Much like, and that's very interesting, much like the character in, where are we going to go? Much like the character in the Seven of Swords, if they were aware of their situation, they could, if they chose to, simply remove the chains from around their necks and walk away. But some of those chains are seductive. Some of those chains can feel like comfort, especially if we have been wearing them since our conception or our parents were wearing them, uh, passed along. These might be ancestral chains. And there's no, we'll see what the rest of the week holds, but I think this is kind of these ideas that we've seen here of asking for what you need, and I hesitate to say creating your own dogma, but creating your own belief system and allowing that flexibility with the change of those beliefs. That's why I like the phrase "the God of your understanding," because that might change from day to day. The God of my understanding has certainly changed from the God of my understanding as a child, the God of my understanding as, in 2020 when this whole spiritual awakening journey began for me. I think this is just, and this is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, coming at the Saturday point. I think this is just the acknowledgement that we are human, that we are designed to enjoy comfort, to enjoy nice things. Can we do that? No. We are designed to enjoy nice things and seek out pleasures. And what better time to seek out pleasure than on the weekend? But, and also understanding that there is a balance, that there is a balance, that there is a right time to go to Trader Joe's to get your salt-free peanut butter and a wrong time. There is a right time to be naked and a wrong time to be naked. And if you're looking for a right time to be naked, there is a naked poetry reading here in Pittsburgh at the Mattress Factory this Friday. I'll link that below. I'm very excited to go to that, not least of all because I'll get to read some poetry, but also with admittance, you get to explore the Mattress Factory. And there will be naked people there. And I love being naked. But in moderation, I would not go to the Mattress Factory naked on a random Tuesday. Not anymore. Two of Swords. Understandably, yeah, there it is. Understandably, there might still be some hesitation to fully open yourself up. She's got the swords crossing her heart, so she has moved her center of mass up. If it was down here, kind of protecting her solar plexus belly area, she would be more centered and grounded. And despite the fact that her gray dress kind of merges into the gray seat beneath her, by having these swords up here, she's not as grounded as she looks. And that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of reevaluation. There's a lot of topsy turviness in this week and in the energy recently. And I think we've got a full moon coming up. So it would make sense that you would want to protect your heart. But there's also this idea that there is a conflict between your head and your heart, your thoughts and your feelings. What with swords being the thinking card, overthinking in some cases, and with the character kind of blocking her blocking her heart. And what just kind of came through is how much of that protection or overthinking or over intellectualizing is a response from to keep you safe, but also how much of that stems from overindulgence in staying in your head, intellectualizing instead of feeling. Yeah, I feel like this is the more cautionary card this week than the devil. And it's interesting that this would come on Sunday. But take it this for relevance whenever you find it. If you find this on a Sunday, this can be your starting point, or this could be your starting point, or this could be your starting point. You're at choice here. And then wrapping it all up. hmm, Four of Cups in reversed. When we have this upright, we can think of it as boredom. You've been successful to an extent, and you've gotten kind of complacent with it, so that even when the hand of God is here reaching out to offer you more, you're like, meh. But with it being reversed, this feels like this feels like playfulness. This feels like, let's see what we can create. Let's see what happens when I give myself to the divine fully. Let's see what happens when I trust my heart. Let's see what happens when I follow my bliss to a healthy extent. Hmm. This card has come up plenty of times before, and I've never had such joy looking at it than I do right now with it being reversed, because it is this invitation not to boredom, but to that playful excitement of creation. The same way that a child will pick up a stick and turn it into a lightsaber or a magic wand or a scroll or whatever it is. This is a card that I'm interpreting as that playfulness, that imagination, letting yourself create from your wonderful feelings and emotions, and trusting that those insights, those intuitive nudges, those flashes of inspiration mean something, and that they are the way that the God of your understanding is connecting with you and showing you what they want you to create here. It's a beautiful week, my friends. And I am happy to be here at the beginning with you. I'll be excited to see how it turns out. You can find me here every Tuesday and Thursday posting these. And if you want to work one on one, I would love to do that. We get into a lot more mythological, soul level layers when we work one on one. So I'll leave my link to explore that below. But until next time, my friends, I want to thank you for joining us today and wish you nothing but peace, love, and happiness from this day forward. Take care.